Have you been wondering if you have a narcissistic mother or what the traits of a narcissistic mother are? Perhaps you question what you've done to upset your mother, or what you have to do to get attention from her that's positive. Perhaps you've been asking when it would be your turn, as your siblings always seem to do the right thing. Maybe you've been walking on eggshells around her all your life. This video is for education and healing purposes only. It is not a diagnostic tool. Welcome to the Divorce Sanctuary. I'm Elizabeth, author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of emotional abuse. On this channel, I talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing emotionally from the abuser. I want to remind you that healing the wound is life-changing and that love shouldn't be conditional. If it is conditional, it isn't love. I want to help you understand and process what's happening inside you and help you discover the best tools to heal on a deeper level, becoming the best version of yourself. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. And thank you so much to all my new subscribers recently. It's amazing. Thank you for your support. Perhaps you've been wondering for a while if you have a narcissistic mother, or have been wondering what the traits of a narcissistic mother are. Perhaps you've lived your life in the shadow of your siblings, and whatever you've done, you've upset your mother. Maybe you recognize yourself as a scapegoat in the family unit, or the black sheep. Or as you've been doing research on narcissists, you've come to recognize some of the traits, and the person who you thought was loving and nurturing, you're becoming to realize might not have been. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 traits of a narcissistic mother. As I said, this isn't a diagnostic tool. And when I finished sharing those with you, I'm also going to share with you towards the end a tool that will help you understand and process what is happening and will help you heal on a deeper level. And if you hear anything that you've experienced, but you've also got anything to add that you think will be helpful to other people, please add it in the comments box below. When we think about families and their bonds, we see them as caring and supportive, but this isn't always the case, especially if the unit has either a narcissistic or controlling mother in charge of it. The emotionally abusive or toxic or controlling mother expects everything done her way. And if it doesn't happen, she needs someone to take the blame. And as with other emotional abusers, it's never going to be their fault. She needs someone to blame to protect her fragile sense of self. A reasonably well-adjusted person might get annoyed if something doesn't go to plan or how they visualized it. But being balanced, they can usually work through the process of events that led up to a situation. The emotionally abusive mother can't do this. So I'm going to highlight with you 10 traits of the narcissistic mother. And at the end, I'll share with you a tool that I believe will help you understand and process what's happening and help you heal on a deeper level. So number one is, in her eyes, she is someone with authority and she doesn't see her behaviour as controlling. Her life has been created to play out an illusion. She keeps control of every area of it, and she can't take responsibility. Her children play a role in this drama. They learn from a very young age to anticipate her moods. Unwittingly, they enable her. And she might select one child, perhaps the one that doesn't fit in with this imagined family dynamic, and they will become her scapegoat. So the sins of the family are bestowed upon this child. They might be different in some way. They're not as attractive, or they're too attractive. Perhaps they resemble their father's side of the family and not hers. For other family units, the children of mothers with the narcissistic traits actually take on the role of the scapegoat, passing it between each other. It's passed round like a game of pass the parcel, and the one that gets caught holding the parcel takes the blame. Number two is her children hide her dysfunction. I touched on this in number one. As part of her control, she has children who play a role. So it's the scapegoat, the invisible child, and the golden child The role of the scapegoat is given to the child, which means the child is open to the family mobbing. Because we are programmed from a young age, this means that the siblings of the scapegoat will understand this role, and they will also partake in blaming. They may even see it as a way of keeping in the good books of their mother, or a way of staying out of trouble, knowing it doesn't matter what they do, they will never receive punishment for their actions. On the other end is the golden child, and as much as a victim actually as the scapegoat, they are the best child in the eyes of the abusive mother. They make the mother look good. The child may excel in sports or academically, or they might be the beauty pageant contestant, and through association the parent is able to brag about their achievements, which gains them their supply. The third role is the invisible child. Obviously, if you don't have 3 children within that family unit, this one might not exist. But there is another role, which is the invisible child. And as with the other roles, the invisible child's another victim of this family dynamic. They are as much, if not more, a victim than the golden child and the scapegoat. The invisible child is neglected. The child fades into the background. They don't have an official role. They're not singled out like the scapegoat for negative attention. They are just ignored. Number 3 is her love is conditional. And we're just going to stop right here with this statement. Because typically when you come out of emotionally abusive relationships, you've got so many unanswered questions. And I'm going to throw another one into the mix. If something is conditional, is it actually love? The relationship with the narcissistic mother is conditional. You're okay if you make her look good. She doesn't know what love is. She hasn't felt it. So how can she give it? Everything about her and any other personality type with these traits, there is no love. Therefore, it can't be conditional. So the pursuit of love is like with the narcissistic mother is like a donkey with a carrot being held over or dangled over its head. Her love can't be conditional because she can't love. The only conditions that are attached to this relationship are that you become an enabler and you hide her dysfunction and that of the family. Number 4 is she uses manipulation to get what she wants. One of her favourite tools is triangulation. Triangulation is used by these insecure people to gain manufactured emotions of jealousy and insecurity, and it's used for narcissistic supply. They use another person to create jealousy and tension, and if they have more than one child, this dynamic was created early on. And as we believe the rules we live under from the day we're born, it's likely this dynamic is seen as normal. The narcissistic mother has her scapegoat and her golden child. And if there's more than 2, she has other children that will play the invisible child or interchange roles as this game of triangulation is created. The abuser uses triangulation to increase their self-esteem and by devaluing other people. It's a very specific pattern used to control. And if her children marry, she has even more people to manipulate. Number 5 is she lacks empathy. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes and imagine how you would feel or react in a certain situation. The narcissistic mother is too busy protecting the illusion that she's created. Any concern that she may show is more to do with what other people will think and how she will look. She may put on a mask that she believes will show her in good light, but this is more for the illusion than it is to support the other person. Another mask, another role. She plays the role for the attention it will give her, as compassion and empathy are not in her vocabulary. Empathy is another conditional exchange. Number 6 is she often diverts the conversation to focus on herself. So you can't have a conversation with her about your life, or perhaps you are allowed a few minutes to talk, but then what happens is the focus is on her. If you or your children are ill, she has that illness as well. Every road leads to the narcissistic mother. When she's listening, she's gathering information for her next phone call, where she can then relay on the stories and information in exchange for supply. And her children are conditioned from an early age to supply her with the information that she then can pass on and gain attention. And this programming takes place in early childhood up until the ages of 7 or 8. These programs then continue, and children repeat the pattern throughout their adult life. Number 7 is she's unpredictable and emotionally volatile. The narcissistic mother has a fragile sense of self. She's very insecure, and the only way that she feels whole and worthy is when she's in control of any situation and of people. So when her authority is challenged, her behaviour becomes unpredictable. She fears losing control of life, a life that she's carefully constructed. Her mask drops, and you might see her true self. Number 8 is she carries grudges. And again, due to this fragile sense of self, she carries these grudges. She's the victim to life. And these are her crutch, giving her the attention she needs. They are the stories that she tells about her awful childhood, the awful way that she's been treated by, and she reels off a list of names. And even when these people die, she still bears these battle scars. She can't heal. She won't let go, because if she did, she'd no longer be the victim. And number 9 is she won't let go. She surrounds herself with the best quality supply, the child that is willing to do anything for this conditional love that doesn't exist, and they've been trained to accept. Why would she let go? Healthy parents are pleased for their children, and they celebrate their achievements and milestones in their life, continuing that into adulthood. The narcissistic mother's first concern is how it will affect them. You've bought a house. Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. When can I visit? Versus, it's where? How are you going to visit me? When will I see you? Or you have a promotion. That's amazing. Congratulations. Versus, how are you going to visit me? When will I see you? Or how are you going to do my shopping? Take me to my appointments. They are losing control. How dare you do something without asking their permission first? And number 10 is jealousy. She allows no boundaries for her children. She needs to know what they're doing, who they're playing with, who their friends are. She controls their relationships. She may also be in competition with them for the attention or affection of her husband or partner, their father or stepfather. They are competition to her. She may even flirt with her children's partners or behave inappropriately towards them. So I'm just going to quickly recap before I share with you the tool that I believe is going to help you understand and process what's happened and help you heal on a deeper level. The emotionally abusive or toxic or controlling parent expects everything done their way, and if that doesn't happen, they need someone to take the blame. Nothing will ever be their fault, and they blame shift to protect their fragile sense of self. The narcissistic mother's traits are she sees herself as someone with authority, and she doesn't see she's behaving in a controlling way. Her children are trained from birth to enable her behaviour and to hide her dysfunction. Her love is conditional, but the reality is she doesn't know how to love. Her life is conditional. Everything has a value and is contractual. She uses manipulation to get what she wants. Her favourite tools are gaslighting and triangulation. Any signs of empathy are based on how this is going to affect her or how she's going to look. She diverts the conversation to focus on herself. She is unpredictable and emotionally volatile. Her grudges are crutches to her victimhood. She won't let go. She's jealous. She allows her children no boundaries. Having a mother who is high up on the narcissistic spectrum has the potential to create lasting trauma in a child's life. Children are sponges. They see, hear, feel everything, and they believe this is how you treat people or how you should be treated. The adult children may never feel good enough, but please remember, this isn't your fault. You were good enough. It's just that she isn't good enough herself, and if she admits that, she shows her weakness and her fragility as a person. She shows her wounds. She probably experienced something similar in her childhood, but it doesn't make this right. But it might make it easier to understand. It also doesn't mean that you have to continue to play the role in her illusion. You might want to do something about the dysfunction you've experienced, but she won't want you to, because that will mean that others will see through the veil as well. It also threatens her. If your siblings want to follow suit, where would she be then? It's usually the scapegoat who wants to make the first move. But remember that the stories of the scapegoat were ingrained into the DNA of the family unit. So they know the scapegoat is usually the one that causes trouble. You may have been suffocated emotionally, experienced being shamed and punished. You probably took a lot of blame for everybody else's mistakes. And there's probably not a lot you haven't experienced. You might not even remember who you are. John Welwood describes us as castles, full of rooms and corridors, basements and attics, each room representing a part of ourselves that contains a unique gift. He said that as a child, we explore our rooms without shame or judgment. As people visited our castle, they may have told us that they didn't like something, so we closed the door on that room and to that part of ourselves. And this has also been true in relationships, particularly emotionally abusive ones, where conditional love was being expressed. This is where we have to be really careful as parents and caregivers not to repeat the patterns or the learnt behaviour. And because of the narcissistic mother's fragile self, she can't connect to you. So you might need to grieve who you thought she was. And in the same way that you may need to grieve an abusive relationship, you can grieve the past, the present, and the future of your life. I think this might be the third reference to this, but from the moment we're born up until the ages of about 7 or 8, we live in a theta state. This is a hypnotic state. It is similar to the phase that we go into before we go into a deep sleep. You were programmed by your tribe that this was normal behaviour. You might have later realised that other people don't behave in the same way in their family tribe. We have been passed down this fear that leaving the tribe is dangerous and that we can't function without them. This might have been once true. Being kicked out of your tribe would mean you'd be alone to survive the plains or the jungles or forests. The ageing narcissistic mother will continue to play her games. She controls her children, turning to them for protection, and because she rules, they duly comply. If you've got wounds that are coming up, talk to them. As part of first aid training, you might have been taught if someone's on fire that they stop, they drop and they roll. You can also do this with emotions. If you're triggered in some way, stop what you're doing, drop into that emotion that's coming up for you, roll it around inside of you and ask, where's it coming from? It might be that you can see an event that happened or you feel an age. Grounding yourself by coming out of your head and getting into your body, you're able to realize that this was a deliberate attempt to trigger you, or that you've got a wound that is calling out to be healed. Get in touch with your essence. Start opening up the doors of your castle and shake off the dust sheets.
Healing the original wound is life-changing. And let me remind you, love shouldn't be conditional. And if it is conditional, it isn't love. So remember, stop, drop, roll. Stop what you're doing, drop into the emotion, roll it around and ask where it's coming from. If you found this video helpful in some way, please like, share and subscribe. I will link my course, Grieve the Past, the Present and the Future, in the description box below. It'll help you pick up the pieces and help you acknowledge and self-correct and get you back on course with your life. I'm sending you loads and loads and loads of love.